Hello, thank you for joining us for part 2 of Eco Design Engineer for SolidWorks. Before demonstrating Eco Design Engineer, we are going to discuss topics related to SolidWorks and the 3DEXPERIENCE platform that are important for performing a lifecycle assessment on your SolidWorks models using the applications in the Eco Design Engineer role. We're going to talk about a few settings that must be set within SolidWorks in order to communicate between SolidWorks and the applications in Eco Design Engineer. Then we're going to dig into the Eco Design Engineer role. We're going to review the applications. We're going to talk about a topic called tokens and also some considerations with updating data that is saved to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Lastly, for those of you unfamiliar with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, we'll review some tips and tricks related to running SolidWorks on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. We'll discuss some general information, and we'll look at how to create a dashboard to facilitate your work in Eco Design Engineer. First, let's talk about the settings in SolidWorks. Very specifically, these settings allow you to share the mass properties of your SolidWorks models with the applications in Eco Design Engineer. So the first thing we'll do is log into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. I'm going to log in using the username for my 3DEXPERIENCE passport and my password. And the last dashboard that I used is shown in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. To access SolidWorks, I'll come here to the compass. And in this top part, we list the roles to which I have access. And down below, we see all the applications across all of the roles. So I'm going to come in here to 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks Premium, and I will launch SolidWorks Connected. So we're going to use this hand crank assembly as the model for this presentation. But before we load that, let's look at a few of the options that should be set in order to share the mass properties information with Eco Design Engineer. And we use the mass properties, such as the mass of the parts, to determine how much of a particular substance or how much of a particular human activity would be associated with our model. I'll get into what that means more later on. So first, let's go into options. One option you could set, and you can only set this if you don't have model loaded, is to update all SolidWorks files for full compatibility with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. This option is not required to communicate between SolidWorks and Eco Design Engineer, but it does save your models. They can be accessed and managed to the fullest extent possible on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that because I have these turned on for compatibility in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Next, we want to look at this setting, and we want to turn this on, update mass properties while saving document. And so this means that when we save the document to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, that the mass properties are updated just before saving. And so this does increase the save time slightly, but it makes sure that you're sending the latest mass properties information up to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. The last setting to set is here in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform connector, and we'll see this more later on in the presentation. But if you come to Tools, you come here to Settings, you want to save information about weight and balance. You need this option to be checked because Eco Design Engineer, again, reads the mass properties information from the SolidWorks model, and saving this weight and balance information makes it accessible on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So I'll go ahead and open the hand crank assembly that we'll use in a later part of this presentation. And you can see how all of the components currently loaded into memory from the 3DEXPERIENCE platform are listed here in the 3DEXPERIENCE platform connector in the task pane. Next, we will take a look at the Eco Design Engineer role and review some of the apps in the role. And then I'll show you how to create a dashboard so you can organize the applications you need to perform your lifecycle assessment. So we log back into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And first, let's take a look at the role that we will explore more in this series of presentations. The role is called Eco Design Engineer. And like most roles, it does contain applications related to governance and file management, things like collaborative IP management, simulation finder, things like this that are applications that you will likely find in other roles as well. But specific to Eco Design Engineer are applications like business activities definition, business target definition, business value definition, and eco design assessment. And these are the applications that we will use to perform our lifecycle assessment. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I have this dashboard here called LCA dashboard, and I'm using this dashboard to lay out the applications that I will commonly use to perform lifecycle assessment. So let's take a closer look at dashboards. You can access all of your dashboards and cockpits by using this control here. Here you can see this, the dashboard that we're currently looking at, and I can create a new one by pushing this plus sign. We'll call this LCA test, and we'll give it the description of demonstration dashboard. Now we have this empty dashboard, and we can add our applications to these different tabs. So I'm going to come here and I'll rename this. And what I can do is now drag and drop the applications that I need into this tab. So first, let's get business value definition app. We're going to put that there from the Eco Design Engineer role. And then I'm going to come here to Collaborative Industry Innovator. I'm going to get the 3D Space app. And so this allows me to see the contents of the collaborative spaces that I use. And then I'm going to drag in Product Structure Explorer, which also brings in 3D Navigate. I'm going to go ahead and resize 3D Navigate a little bit. And if we go into the LCA demonstration folder, we can see that I can drag a part into Product Structure Explorer. It loads in 3D Navigate, and here Business Value Definition is asking if I want to load that part into Business Value Definition as well. So here I can get a preview of the part, I can see the structure of this product, and that's more important, I would say, for assemblies where you have a top-level assembly or sub-assemblies and components within the assembly. And with any of these applications, you can expand the application using this expander button, maximizing the view in the application. And then, of course, you can collapse it down to the size defined in the dashboard by using the collapser button in the upper right. So that's a quick overview of the role and applications that we will use in the rest of this presentation, and also a quick demonstration of creating a dashboard. Now that we have reviewed the Eco Design Engineer role and talked about dashboards, I would like to talk about two additional concepts that are important for SOLIDWORKS users to understand when using Eco Design Engineer. The first concept is that of tokens. Data science tokens are something of a new concept for SOLIDWORKS users. When performing lifecycle assessment on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, data science tokens are licensing items that are consumed when you add lifecycle assessment information to an engineering item. In this case, an engineering item will refer to a part or assembly created in SOLIDWORKS. In the environmental domain, a single data science token is divided into 1,500 value atoms. One value atom is consumed for every engineering item to which lifecycle assessment information has been added. So if you define lifecycle assessment information for 10 parts on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, you will consume 10 value atoms. When you obtain the Eco Design Engineer role, you will also obtain a series of tokens to support your work in Eco Design Engineer. The next important concept involves updating data after it has been saved to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So after saving your models, several 3DEXPERIENCE platform processes are run automatically on these models. This is so that these models can be integrated into the full suite of data management applications on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. One of these processes is referred to as indexing. Indexing on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is the process of creating an index of your data. This enables faster and more efficient searching and retrieval of this information. This process also ensures that the mass properties information of your SOLIDWORKS models is accessible to the applications within the Eco Design Engineer role. After you save your SOLIDWORKS model, it does take some time to index, and the time that it takes to index your SOLIDWORKS models is dependent on many factors, including the size of the models and the number of components within an assembly, and many other factors. It is important to understand that your models must be fully indexed and updated after saving to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform in order for the applications within the Eco Design Engineer role to be able to read the mass properties information of your models. For this reason, it is recommended that you allow time for indexing after saving your SOLIDWORKS models before opening these models in the apps that make up the Eco Design Engineer role. Before we move on to tips and tricks, I would like to discuss a few topics related to the browser that you use. First, it is recommended that you use Google Chrome. The second recommendation is that periodically you clear your cache. Should you experience difficulty in accessing the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, one thing you should try is to either clear your Google Chrome cache or launch an incognito window. This next part will have tips and tricks for SOLIDWORKS users that are new to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. If you are familiar with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, feel free to skip ahead to part 3 of this presentation. So let's first look in the compass on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. If I select Me up here, I can see all of the roles to which I currently have a license. So I can install any of the applications in these roles. If I go to Company, then you see the full list of roles that your company has purchased. You may not have access to all of these roles. For example, if we look at Plastic Injection Engineer, I don't have access to that role. I can request access from my administrator by clicking this button. So going back to the roles and applications that we have installed, there are two types of applications on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. One are the applications that you install on your computer. So SOLIDWORKS Connected is an example of one of those applications. You can tell it's an application that you install because it has this little drop down here. And if you select that drop down, you have the option here to uninstall. I also have the option to update the software. It looks right here as though there's a software update that's available. And then here's an option to create a desktop shortcut for that application. The other type of application on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform are web-based applications. You can tell that it is a web-based application because of this little arrow up here in the upper corner. So if I click this, you can see that it launches within the browser. Let me just close that out as a web-based application. If you select an application that is not installed, you'll of course be asked to install it first. So here is the option to install electrical schematic design, which I have not previously installed on my computer. Going back to the SOLIDWORKS role, one application where I'd like to focus some attention is the Welcome app. So as you can see, it is a browser-based application. I'll go ahead and close that out as well. And we can see the wealth of information available in the Welcome app for SOLIDWORKS. First, you can access installed applications, or you can install applications related to SOLIDWORKS. Here I can open XDesign, XShape, and XMold, the web-based CAD applications for SOLIDWORKS. And here are links to web-based applications for collaboration, such as 3D Play, Swim, Bookmark Editor, and collaborative tasks. Here in the Learning Center, you can find a lot of great tutorial videos that will help you get familiar with using SOLIDWORKS on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. This one is very helpful. Start designing with 3DEXPERIENCE SOLIDWORKS. I'd also like to draw your attention to find your way around the 3DEXPERIENCE platform and manage content on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Two very helpful videos. And here is a wealth of learning modules related to the SOLIDWORKS CAD role, the SOLIDWORKS PLM role, and many others. And lastly, these are links to the public communities available to SOLIDWORKS users. Thank you for watching this presentation. Again, we covered some settings that you must set in SOLIDWORKS in order to send mass properties information to the applications in the Eco Design Engineer role. We briefly reviewed the Eco Design Engineer role, and then we reviewed some tips and tricks for SOLIDWORKS users that are new to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. In part 3, we're going to have a demonstration of Eco Design Engineer, and we're going to focus on product LCA and finding hotspots within our product.